Hello, and welcome to 10 Very Big Books. My name is Peter Bond, and with me today is Joshua Dean Baker. How are you, Josh?
I am doing swell. Thanks for asking, buddy.
That's right, it's just the two of us. AJ was a little busy in the run-up to them going on vacation, so we are going to crack open the fifth novella of Korbal, Broach, and Bauchelain, The Wurms of Blearmouth today, and talk all about it. But first, that's right, it's lemon seltzer o'clock. We're getting twisted on a Thursday night.
It's pretty sick. Hold on. Yeah, you're right. Hold on.
Wow.
That's right, baby. Made a little chai tea, and I know that's a redundancy, so
Ha ha ha. Also, Josh, guess what came in the mail today? That's right, a magazine from our alma mater.
Oh, all hail University of Delaware, baby.
Go Blue Hens, go Joe Biden, go tax evasion, all things Delaware, baby.
Hell yeah, my home.
So, how is this fine Thursday treating you?
Well, I watched some high school boys volleyball today, and let me tell you, not the peak of athleticism on display today, but it's all right. Those boys they let their hearts out there.
They left it all on the field.
They really did.
Good for them.
Yep. That's my life.
Were you, refereeing?
Was I what?
What were you doing? You were refereeing?
Oh, no. I have to go to events, and I'm like a big, strong guy, and
Sure.
As a big, strong man, they I have to go to 9 hours of events and be a bouncer.
You have to lift things, move stuff.
Exactly.
I
They're
see.
like, this is heavy. Pick it up and put it somewhere else.
Use your big arms.
Yes. So that was what I did today. How about you, PB? What was your day like?
Well, as you may know, I traveled all the way to the Big Apple, but one India Jones was not there, so we were unable to meet up, which was a little disappointing. But
It is sad.
it was a fine day, quite long, and I was able to finish this little novella on the train ride back to Philadelphia. So let's get into the discussion of The Wurms of Blearmouth. Josh, you were quite charmed by Cracked Pot Trail. How did this novella take you?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Peter. I really think that for me, I think that the Korbal, Broach, and Bauchelain books are such a pure distillation of the best parts of Malazan, because I feel like Steve has so much freedom to be in conversation with what he does in Malazan in these little snippets. And I feel like every book is, obviously they're comedic, right? But I feel like every book is picking something in Malazan and letting you, poking fun at an aspect of, or in this case, in my opinion, I think it poked fun at a big aspect of high fantasy in general. And I was endeared with it. I also read it while horribly sick with a stomach bug, and I read all, the whole thing in one sitting. So I was like, well, there's literally nothing else I can do right now.
I think that's probably the preferable way to read these types of things. Plus, they're pretty short. This one was short,
Yeah.
so.
Oh, this was an easy read. If you wanted to say, I've got this book series, it's a little intense, I think you'd like it. Why don't you see if you like the author's style? I think this is a silly way that you could have them see what that style's like. I think they'd be quite confused, but...
Well, Josh, I totally disagree with that statement, but I do not think this is the way to approach the Malazan series. But yeah, I'm glad it resonated with you. I'm glad you had a good time. It doesn't surpass Cracked Pot Trail, does it?
There are parts of it that did for me, I think, but also I have such recency bias with everything I do in my life. So
Sure.
Yeah, so Cracked Pot Trail is incredible, and I am going to reread that book at some point. I don't think I'll ever read this one, but it was very fun. I will say there are elements of this one, unlike with Cracked Pot Trail, there are elements of this one where if you did not read the first set of BKB novellas, you would be a little more confused than you probably already are in this one. There are references to the past books as well as things that happened off screen between the last two books. So it might throw you off a little bit if you haven't read them.
Yeah, you kind of reminded me, in the conversation, I guess we will lightly spoil the book, but again, you're kind of more spoiling punchlines or small plot beats. I wouldn't say this is the most spoilable thing, but just a fair warning. So yeah, no, it's definitely something I wanted to follow up on. But first, I did want to say, I think I'm going to sound pretty negative in this conversation, but I had a way better time with this short story than I had with Crackpot Trail, and I found this to be easily one of the more enjoyable ones. I really enjoy Healthy Dead. I really enjoyed this one, and I kind of just enjoyed the setting. I enjoyed Spendrugal. I enjoyed the vibe. I enjoyed kind of seeing the different aspects of everyday people in the town and what life was like. I found some of the comedy to be pretty funny. I think the Lord Fang-a-Tooth Claw, the Renderer, is very funny. So I think there are lots of good gags, and I did think I walked away wanting to have some sort of emotional experience, and I think the book is so unserious. It's like obviously doing absurdism in a way, and it's all comedy, and it's doing slapstick. It's all this stuff. I definitely felt like I was missing something emotional to connect to, but that's not really what these novellas are going for, I would say. So it's not, the end of the world or anything. I think it mostly succeeds in what it's trying to do. And if you're trying to spend more time with these characters, I think this is one of the funner novellas. That's basically what I walked away feeling. But
I think almost all those sentiments are pretty spot on. I think, and you said it walks away with what it's trying to do. Did you? I really felt like, in a way, Steve was, we always say, Steve's a postmodern, a lot of what he does is that. So he's always in conversation and other stuff. I really felt like, and I never notice it ever at all, but I felt like in this one, he was really in a conversation with the tendencies of fantasy novels to make every character more important or more, I'm going to go into some spoilers. Almost every character that is introduced in this book, in this little novella, secretly is incredibly powerful or has some insane backstory element to them. There is almost nobody in this novella that is just a person. And I really felt like that, in addition to just being very funny, like how often these reveals were happening, I feel like when I read Malazan, I sometimes feel that way. Like, why does every soldier in the Bone Hunters, why is every single one of them special and impactful? And I know in a way that the answer to that question is, well, there's thousands we don't read about, and they are the ones that are not impactful. But it feels like all of the impactful ones got put into two squads. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I feel like in a way in this one that made me really think and reflect upon that of like, it is a little ridiculous. Like when I read this directly after reading chapters 1 through 3 of Dust of Dreams, and I really had a much different thought about the 14th afterwards. I was like, oh, wait a minute, there's some bullshit here.
Yeah, that's interesting that it read to you as satirical or a commentary on that. I don't know if it necessarily read that way to me. I kind of enjoyed some of the turns when we learned more about the characters. I felt like the witch cat thing was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And but to touch on something like a good example, what you're talking about, when it's like the beachcomber guy or,
Yes, exactly.
It's like when this gets revealed, some part of me, and I do this in Malazan Book of the Fallen sometimes, I kind of have this shrug and I'm like, okay, and, what do you, how am I, this means nothing to me, it becomes very flat in a way, and I don't really know I don't know if I really take anything away from that information or that type of characterization, But on the other hand, I do think there are some relationships and characters here that I do think I was able to grasp more onto. I kind of found the Faluval stuff kind of fun in a way, and then I think that I think some of the tax collector stuff is fun, but
I mean, for sure, the end of the tax collector. First off, what a reveal this deep in to learn that Steve's a libertarian. I cannot believe it.
Very, very funny, Josh. Very anti-tax collector book. I gotta say,
super.
I think it's got to be tough if you're a tax collector and you tune into the Wurms of Blearmouth.
Yeah. Steve must have had a particularly rough audit season. and he really felt he needed to get his opinions out there. I think that storyline honestly was one of my favorites because it was so disconnected from everything else, and yet it was written as if it was just as important. And I found myself very invested in the storyline of this tax collector and then eventually this dead/undead man, which is also never explained, and I was very glad it wasn't explained.
I'm glad. I also love, just to shout out, because this is like such a BKB thing, like when there's just a golem and there's no explanation, there's no like Malazanifying it. I basically just feel like Ericsson's like, oh, a golem, you understand, and we move on. There's like, it's like, oh, you know, you've played a role play. It's a golem's here. We're moving on. Yeah, it's kind of funny that he's just playing fast and loose with these kind of tropes and these objects of fantasy that I feel are kind of out of place in Book of the Fallen.
He also really plays very, to use your phrasing, fast and loose with established Malazan rules 100%. Sometimes. You know, like Malazan, and I know that we meet Bauchelain and Korbal Broach in the third book, and I know that they are very, very powerful. They go toe-to-toe with Quickben. But in their novellas, it is ludicrous what he lets them do. Like,
all right, here's just a quick side note about power levels. Okay, I fully agree with what you're saying, Josh. But this is when we joke about Malazan, like Steve being a weeb, Malazan being like anime or manga. I think the power level thing is totally funny and very in that wheelhouse because, it's not like book one, the power levels are low,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess relatively it's like assassins on a rooftop, but by the end of that book, it's like, oh, it's actually like animator race here. There's a Jaga Tyrant. And things just keep going up. They have never gone down. And there are all of nonstop introductions of these people who there's really nebulous understandings of their power. And it's just like, well, actually, she's a really big deal. And you're like, okay, so the series definitely plays really fast and loose with how vague people's powers are, but to be honest, that's the type of thing I don't really give a shit about. So I just think it's fun.
When I'm reading these,
I think it's funny and 100% like, what is BKB's power level in regards to other people? I could not tell you, but I don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I'll spoil it, but the reveal of, how powerful Korbal Broach is compared to, well, I always forget which one's which. Bauchelain is the one that talks more and has the beard.
Yeah.
The reveal of Bauchelain being like 20 times more powerful than like the quote unquote bad guy of this, because it's clear he's not very powerful, is Bauchelain just like literally ties, what's the word I want? Like chains a demon to a cookie. Bakes that cookie.
Very good.
Very good cookies and lots of frosting. Frosting was a big part of it.
A little honey, a little sugar.
Yes. And then the bad guy, eats the cookie and, you broke the seal because you ate half the cookie. Haha. A demon ate him, like came up through his body. That is so stupid and so silly because we have seen demon summonings in this series. Kalam has one in the first book. And he makes it, Quickben, and he makes a huge deal about the fact that he got it from Tashrin, who was like the master of chaining demons.
Sure.
And then, we see Rulad do it in book fucking whatever 4, and that's a whole thing. They get ripped from another plane, and Bauchelain's out here like easy bake oven in these bitches. It's ridiculous.
My understanding is the next novella, Fiends of Nightmaria, has more demon-related information, writing.
I'm here for it. I think it's very fun.
Yeah, the demons are always a kind of fun side element to the Malazan world.
Now, I want to talk about, I would say, my least favorite character, but it sounds like you liked her more. How did you feel about Felittle and the tax collector and their antics?
Yeah, I don't love it. It's just very off-putting, but I think what I was getting at with that comment is I think I more relate to these characters who seem to be having a human relationship and be having these conversations than kind of, people who are off on their own or doing stuff that I connect to less. So I think the fact that she had this relationship with her mother and kind of had these wants and desires that I could somewhat understand made me connect to her more. But I'm not like a Felidal head, if that's what you're getting at, you know?
I get that. I get that. So Pete, I think really what we got to come down to now is the question on everyone's mind. If you were living in a small town completely cut off from the world by the winter and it was taken over by a tyrant, what position do you think you would find yourself in?
Yeah, it's a very fun setting, and it's like that's why it reminded me of The Healthy Dead, because it's kind of examining a town, examining a society in a sense. And obviously, I do feel Healthy Dead's a totally different story, but it's like I did feel obviously this tyrant and then the normal people in the town were kind of being examined, and their relationship and how that power worked, which is very interesting. And quick side note, I also just wanted to kind of say I always enjoy it in Malazan when, you know, this is a story ostensibly about Lord Fangatooth, in a sense, and his tyranny and what that means and what it means to the town, you know? However, the majority of this tale is told outside of the castle and is told on the ground with pretty everyday people and the residents to understand what their life is like. And I appreciate seeing that point of view, because obviously a lot of fantasy is very rooted in monarchy or aristocracy. And I just wanted to kind of praise Malazan. I think a lot of the times you do get to see that point of view, and you see that here as well. This has been a bee in my bonnet as I've been watching House of the Dragon, which has a lot of monarchy, you know?
I've not watched it yet.
So one thing I did want to ask, you did touch on this earlier. This is so far the Bauchelain Korbal Broach story that has had the most direct follow through. I mean, I wouldn't call it a direct sequel, but it comes immediately after Leaves of Laughter End, which I have to say, it doesn't help that we read that
a while
2 years ago or so, a while ago.
And if I'm not mistaken, the Healthy Dead's between these two, right?
I actually was looking into this. My understanding is exactly they're on their way to the Healthy Dead right now.
Oh, are they?
Like at the end of this one, they're going to the Healthy Dead.
That's interesting. Okay. Yeah, the timeline's a little hinky for me, but I really don't care much when we're doing that. When we're, you know, with BKB, it's not the end of the world for me. I did.
The canon here is not the thrust of my enjoyment.
Yeah. I actually really did enjoy the through line. For a few reasons. Number one, this fucking beach gets so much action in this 1 8-hour time period.
Sure.
And I love that the beachcomber's just like, well, fuck me. I'm more dead bodies, I guess. Like
they
he's
they just keep coming.
And they never ask questions, and he's just constantly like, well, I guess there's more. And that's great. I forgot how much I liked. I actually don't even know if we've met the Chanters before this. I don't remember. I know we've heard of the Chanters.
They are in Leaves of Laughter End, I believe, but I also wasn't aware of this until I did more reading, completely forgot.
Yeah, I think they're very fun. I love how absolutely big dipshits they are, and Faluval just kind of is able to get them to do exactly what she wants them to do. They remind me a lot of in the what's the last movie we just read, Reaper's Gale. They remind me of the two Bowl brothers that are on the cart with Gruntle. They've got the same vibe for me.
Very much so. Very much so. I think it's tough though when it comes to these recurring elements, as I think you can tell. I don't really know how much of this stuff stays in my system. You know, I do feel like I kind of just let it pass through me. I have a laugh and a fun time, and then I kind of, you know, it's just processed and I've moved on.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Who
the Chanters are, you know, and like their characteristics or something is not something I have a terrible memory of. But I think thankfully it's not, I would say, crucial. I don't feel like the canon here is crucial, you know? I did want to say I looked it up and I have the official thing. We are actually reading them in the published order, but the chronological order is different, and this is between the Leaves of Laughter End and the Healthy Dead.
And does Crackpot Trail come
after Healthy Dead, and then there's Fiends of Nightmaria, and then the one he just published, Upon a Dark of Evil Overlords.
Got it. He really likes to just make fun of evil in these books, which makes sense. I mean, our protagonists are a necromancer and a cannibal necromancer. Like, it's incredible. Also, do you ever feel like there's a certain 60s James Bond to these books?
That's a really funny comparison. Why do you say that?
I just was thinking about some of my favorite scenes, and I mean, top for me is they get fed dinner, and the guy is like, he's like, I hope you've enjoyed my hospitality, and Bauchelain's like, well, we would have, but you've tried to poison us, and he's like, what? And he's like, don't worry, we've guarded ourselves against poisons for years, and I just was like, that's silly, and then. Steve, and we talked actually about this
I do love how Emancipator Reese is like, what about me? And he's like, yes, no, I've slowly been immunizing you to the poison.
That's what I was going to say. Steve is so good at those, that, the rule of threes or whatever, he always knows that last step that has to get taken for a comedy thing to hit. And that is exactly what did it, was the Emancipator Reese. And then being like, no, dude, we are constantly poisoning you with your drugs.
Sure.
Which, by the way, I didn't realize when book 3, when we met him, Emancipator Reese is fucking stony baloney nonstop.
Yeah, no, I do think, Josh, to speak on what you said, I do think there's kind of a throwback element to some of the comedy. I think sometimes Erickson even writes in a type of vaudeville back and forth type of comedy.
Oh, I like that, yeah.
I think so you did not read The Willful Child with us, right?
And I actually wanted to talk to you about that, because you've had less stellar opinions of these ones than I have, but I know you really enjoy The Willful Dead. Is there a reason that or The Willful Child, is there a reason that you differ?
Listen, I wouldn't say I really enjoy those books. I would say I enjoy them about as much as I feel these, which I don't feel as passionate or feel like the work is as urgent as the Book of the Fallen stuff is. I do feel like this is, you can tell kind of passion projects or something that's fun, or, they're just totally different types of work. So no, these works don't resonate with me as much emotionally, but I do find them to kind of be, if you like the Malazan stuff, this is a fun way to spend an afternoon or something. And what I actually feel like is, I feel like the perfect world is I would read one Willful Child book, one of these, and then, in that interview with Steve, he mentions trying to do a whodunit type riff comedy thing.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like I would rather, instead of having 7 of these dark-toned necromancer absurdist, and they have different angles, they have different themes,
Right, yeah.
But I feel like I would rather just have a bunch of different, type of genre things than to kind of keep hitting what I feel like are some similar notes sometimes, or I don't know. I just think I enjoyed reading Willful Child, and I almost feel like I got my fill after 1 or 2 of those books, and I do somewhat feel like I've got my fill out of the BKB stuff. It's not I didn't regret reading this, but I do feel like if you read 2 or 3 of these, I don't know.
You're going to know if it's your thing or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And listen, I think obviously for some people it is. I think they're resonating more with you than they are with me.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm glad he's writing them for that audience, but I think I prefer the Book of the Fallen, and I that's just what it is.
Mhm.
I prefer the drama. I enjoy those characters. I enjoy the stakes. I just prefer that series.
It's
a totally different. It's a totally different tone. They're pretty much unrelated outside of being in the same world.
Yeah, that's pretty much the crux of our friendship, is that I only like comedy, and you like.
And
drama.
I'm always trying to be too intense about things, and kind of ruining the mood.
I didn't say it.
Just saying. I've been at parties. I can bring down a room. And
then I'm right there, right behind you. I bring it back. We're all good.
Yeah, something like that. All right. Well, we have been chatting for a little bit, but before we would go, I would be loathed if I didn't ask you your interest in reading the next one, and whether you think we should finish off this second collection by picking up The Fiends of Nightmaria.
I obviously am very okay with that. I know these books for you and AJ are not as beloved, but I mean, audience, if you want Josh to just come on here by myself and just gush about the last one of these, just, let me know. I'll do it. I'll do a solo pod.
I'm glad that obviously I was not a Crackpot trailhead, but I'm glad I had way more of a fun time with this one. And although one of my complaints would be not enough, as always, not enough Bauchelain and Korbal Broach. Let's just spend more time with these characters. They're the ones I care most about, and I don't need a climax. But that's something I enjoyed about the Crackpot Trail is I didn't feel that. There was not this structure where at the end all the dominoes have to fall and we have to do this thing.
Right.
Sometimes we can just hang out. If we just spent 100 pages hanging out with them, I would probably have a good time,
I agree, but I also feel like his first three novellas were so much of that. I think maybe he wanted to see if he could continue the thread of books about them with as little of them as possible. Maybe he's doing it as a writing challenge.
Oh, totally. I mean, listen, he should obviously he should write whatever he wants, But
I'm excited. No, I was going to say something, but that is exactly what Crackpot Trail did. So never mind.
I'm excited for Crackpot Trail. I'm suggesting our listeners check out Crackpot Trail.
You'll love it, or you'll hate it, and that will elicit one of two opinions from a Sir AP Canavan.
Yeah, that was funny. I think those episodes will have come out by then, and then soon, next week or so, we will have the interview with Steve. And then we'll be on to talking about Book 9, which we have already begun. We've started recording our Dust of Dreams episodes. Spoilers. Strong opinions out the gate from everybody. Strong opinions out the gate. And I'm excited to be back, excited to be recording. And then that's about it here business-wise. Anything else you want to say about the Wurms of Blearmouth?
I think it's fun. If you like this stuff, you're going to like it. And if you don't, just skip it. Save yourself the time. I would say it's fun. And if you're going to read some of the BKB, this is one that's worth your time. I would rank, I feel I fully endorse this as something to spend an afternoon reading. But also it did, it resonated with me less than reading some of the Malazan stuff. It's not a mainline Malazan book. Do you get it? Yeah. I've repeated it several times, Josh. All right. Cool. We're going to have to get on mic soon and talk about the Toll the Hounds epilogues for the Patreon. Not the epilogues. Oh, yeah. Epigraphs. Forgot we did that, honestly. Yeah, well, we got to get it done, but it's a busy time of year over here, so hopefully we can get that up in October, November, somewhere around there, and we'll have to find some stupid thing to cover with it as well. Yeah. If you have any thoughts, you can let us know, and if you have read this book, please let us know what you think about it on our Discord or on our Twitter, 10 Very Big Books, 10verybooks@gmail.com, and thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. Bye.